This is CBC Winnipeg News.
Uncontained and unpredictable, wildfires continue to rage around the province as high winds, soaring temperatures, and bone-dry conditions fuel the flames. Good evening. Thanks for joining us. Dangerous fires are burning around the province tonight. Some people have already been forced out, while others remain on high alert. Bags are packed and people are ready to evacuate in all directions. We begin our coverage tonight out in the Whiteshell, where a fire along the Ontario border is threatening communities and people are being told to get out. CBC's Rosanna Hempel is there this evening. And Rosanna, what's the latest?
Well, I'm here at West Hawk Lake looking northeast. You know, it's hot. We can see that orange glow from all that smoke. Just over my shoulder, you can see that plume of smoke from that out of control wildfire that's burning mostly in Ontario, north of Ingulf. Now, the Manitoba government says that that fire has now spread to this side of the border in Whiteshell Provincial Park. I spoke to an evacuee just a few minutes ago who told me that she's very stressed about the situation. Now, just over an hour ago, the province issued evacuation notices for some parts of the Whiteshell, telling everybody to get out by 5 o'clock. Now, those areas include the north side of West Hawk Lake, Caddy Lake, Florence and Nora Lake. You know, they've been told, they've been on alert this past day. I've been told to have bags ready to go for this situation. A number of camping sites and trails in Whiteshell Provincial Park are also closed, including the Mantario Trail. You know, Ontario's fire service is taking charge of this because the fire is, you know, mostly on that side of the border. They do have a few water bombers here responding to that fire. Chris Marchand is with the Aviation, Forest Fire and Emergency Team.
In terms of firefighting, this is the type of fire where we're just seeing such extreme fire behavior that it really isn't safe to put anybody too close.
You know, so this fire started yesterday afternoon on the south side of Long Pine Lake. Marchand told us that there's strong winds right now, and actually those winds picked up embers from the south side and pushed it north. Now that fire has grown to 8,000 hectares.
It continues to be hot, dry, and windy, which is a real recipe for extreme fire behavior, especially at a time when we haven't seen any meaningful precipitation for probably a week and a half. And, you know, spring fire conditions are often quite volatile when you have forests who haven't quite completely greened up yet.
South Whiteshell cottagers that are evacuating are being told to check in at the fire hall here down the street at the West Hawk Lake Fire Hall. We did see a few people checking in there, mostly police and fire personnel there as well. Now, North Whiteshell folks are being told to check in at the Rennie District Office. Back to you, Brittany.
All right. Thank you, Rosanna. That's CBC's Rosanna Hempel this evening. Now, just northwest of that area, another wildfire is raging around Nopaming Provincial Park. The fires have many on edge. It's being closely watched, and if the winds turn, it could quickly head towards homes and cottages, with some there already being told to leave. CBC's Zubina Ahmed was in that part of the province today.
Whoa! That is Riley Martin, driving through a huge wall of smoke. He was on his way back to Winnipeg from a 3-day canoe trip in Nopaming Provincial Park.
It was wild. Like it was post-apocalyptic. Once I got into the smoke, everything just got so dark.
Martin thinks his terrifying drive to the Nopaming fire was about 3 minutes.
Oh, there's the heat. There's the heat, and I could feel it on my face. It was wild. I touched the glass on the driver's side window as I was driving along, and it was getting really hot. And that was around the point that was the most unsafe I felt, where I was like, okay, this is the line.
Tuesday, the province declared the fire out of control and now 5,000 hectares in size. Evacuations for residents and cottages are underway. Cars were being turned away here at the Bird River Bridge on Highway 315. This has been closed since yesterday afternoon. You can see and smell the smoke and see how dry it is around here. Eric Tagerson lives close to the area. He wanted to know if he was staying safe.
We got all our stuff packed by the door, throw it in the vehicle and go if we have to.
Reg Pullen is prepared to go too.
I'm going home. I got stuff in my truck and I just keep it there for a couple of days until it's safe.
About 40 kilometers southwest of the Nopaming fire, there was a grass fire in Lac du Bonnet. It started early Tuesday afternoon. 12 to 15 homes were evacuated. Lauren Schinkel is the reeve of the municipality of Lac du Bonnet.
It just was too big by that time, and now Resources, certainly Conservation, has got 2 water bombers allocated to it. It's a significant fire, and we've just signed an evacuation order for all of the residents east of Wendigo Road up to Newcomb Road.
Manitoba Hydro says there's no power in 200 spots. Schinkel says the wind is spreading the grass fire fast and he wants people to obey the fire ban. Zabina Ahmed, CBC News, Lac du Bonnet.
Now, things are fluid and changing quickly. With wildfire conditions continuing to escalate, the province has declared a state of local emergency for a number of provincial parks in the eastern part of the province. An evacuation order has been issued for Nopaming Provincial Park. States of local emergency have been declared for that park, as well as the Wallace Lake, South Attakaki and Manicatogan River Provincial Parks. This means all cottage subdivisions, commercial areas, campgrounds, rec areas, including trails, beaches and campsites are closed. There's also an evacuation order today in the RM of Piney. Those in the town of Carrick have been ordered out due to a wildfire burning about 1 kilometre away from that community. Let's bring Riley in right away. Riley, those high winds and these temperatures really helping fuel all of these really terrible conditions.
Yeah, setting us up for a fairly dire recipe in terms of fire activity, even as we get into the next couple of days here. Winds have been a major factor today. So winds in the city today have been gusting up to 60. We've seen some gusts up to 40, 50. These are out of the south, so that's pushing all of that fire up the eastern side of the province into northwestern Ontario, hence some of those evacuation orders. Very fast-moving conditions throughout the day today. With that comes an air quality warning for the eastern side of the province, an air quality statement into northwestern Ontario. That's all on top of the heat warning that we have in place because of these really hot temperatures that we've seen throughout the day today. So all of that smoke being pushed into northwestern Ontario, and you can even see some of that showing up on satellite and radar at the moment. This is not actually rain falling. Some of that smoke is just so dense that it's being picked up on these radar returns. We'll talk about when the wind dies down when I come back.
All right. Thanks, Riley.
You're welcome.
Now, we're also getting a closer look at the aftermath from yesterday's huge fire along Gun Road in Transcona. It tore through an industrial area, causing plumes of black smoke and explosions as it ripped through a scrapyard. Well, no one was injured, as Cameron McLean reports. One city councillor worries it's just a matter of time before a catastrophic fire.
The fire may be over and Gun Road reopened, but this auto storage facility bears the scars. Dozens of burned out cars. This area on the border between Winnipeg and the RM of Springfield has many industrial businesses. Councillor Russ Wyatt worries they aren't properly protected.
They have an industrial park. They do not have fire hydrants. They do not have a full-time paid fire services volunteer.
Firefighters are still investigating the cause of the fire, but Wyatt says rail lines run through the area and sparks from trains have caused fires in the past.
We have a lot of I guess you would almost call them ticking time bombs, not only in the city of Winnipeg, but around the city.
Firefighters initially had difficulty accessing a water supply as city hydrants were too far away. The Springfield Fire Department was called in to help. Their chief takes exception to Wyatt's claims, saying they have set up water supplies with businesses in the area for exactly this kind of situation.
And we had more water than we can actually shake a stick at. So that's how we actually knocked that fire down and controlled that situation, because I've done my homework.
Wyatt says Winnipeg has seen industrial disasters before, including the Speedway International explosion in 2012. On May 6, 2018, several fires sprang up along CN rail tracks in Winnipeg after a train went through. At City Hall today, Mayor Scott Gillingham said he has no concerns about the Springfield Fire Service and urged people to take precautions.
Well, the conditions are so dry. I'm calling on all Winnipeggers to be very, very cautious, respect our fire ban rules that are in place, Be extra cautious if you're someone, who smokes or is even using a barbecue that is permitted to be used. Please be very, very cautious right now.
The city burn ban remains in place until May 19th. Cameron McLean, CBC News, Winnipeg.
8 children were sent to hospital this morning after their school bus was involved in a serious crash. RCMP say the school bus collided into the back of a tractor. It happened near the intersection of Road 37 West and Road 43 North. Mounties say a grader was pushing debris along the road and it was being collected by a tractor when the school bus rear-ended that tractor. 31 kids were on the bus on their way to school. 8 were taken to hospital with minor injuries. Manitoba's premier says his government is taking a strong stand against illegal hunting in a remote northern provincial park that borders Nunavut. Today, the opposition Conservatives released photos of dead caribou, including a caribou fetus at Newton Lake, and a warning: the images you're about to see is the aftermath of a hunt, and some may find it graphic. This video was posted to Newton Lake Lodge's YouTube account. Members of the Manitoba Wildlife Federation are calling on the province to intervene. Manitoba Conservation is investigating possible wastage. Wab Canoe says provincial officials are taking the matter seriously.
I've spoken to people directly who live in this part of the province and who live off the land, and let me say this unequivocally. Anybody who participated in this has no respect for animals, has no right to be able to hunt in this province, and will be pursued and held accountable to the fullest extent of the law.
The Federation says the owner of the lodge discovered many dead animals. RCMP say they are investigating alleged break-ins at the lodge. A woman was shot by police on the Trans-Canada Highway yesterday night. It happened northwest of Carberry after drivers reported a person walking in and out of traffic. RCMP say the first officer who arrived found a woman acting erratically, climbing onto vehicles holding a knife. The woman was shot when she approached the officer with the weapon after repeated demands to drop it. The 54-year-old was taken to hospital in stable condition. The officer was wearing a body camera, and that footage is being turned over to the police watchdog. The province is warning about another series of measles exposures in southern Manitoba. Public health officials say people may have been exposed to the highly infectious disease at 4 places in Boissevain between Wednesday and Friday of last week. Those include the Canada Post outlet, Gordon Industries, as well as Sunrise Credit Union and RBC. And you can find full dates and times on our website at cbc.ca/Manitoba. 20 confirmed and 4 possible measles cases have been reported in the province so far this year. Dozens of people took over a city council meeting in Thompson last night, saying they're defending a vital part of democracy. The outcry comes after the city stopped allowing the public to openly speak before council meetings. CBC's Sunuta Ranawake explains.
Thompson City Council meeting was packed Monday night. People passionate about the right to speak up.
It's very important. The people must be heard.
In April, Council voted to remove a comment period at the start of council meetings. It was the time for comments and questions for Thompson City Council. Ron Matichuk says he's watched over 75% of council meetings and was worried few people cared about the issue.
It appears most people in Thompson don't care, but some do, because some came to talk to me about it, and they're upset about it, but they weren't there to speak when they could speak, and here we are now, that's taken away from them.
Show of hands. Opposed? Motion passes.
Thompson's Mayor Colleen Smook wanted to do away with the comment period. She said most meetings only get 3 visitors and few people speak up.
I will stick to my guns, and I may be in the minority, but I definitely believe that, trying new things is a good thing for council.
The change was a quarterly town hall meeting. Councillor Duncan Wong was at the forefront of the fight to bring back the comment period.
How could you address a winter issue in the summertime? I mean, it's a bit too late for 3 months to wait.
In the end, the deciding vote came to Councillor Sandra Oberdorfer. She voted to remove the bylaw in April, but switched her vote Monday.
Because it was clear that our taxpayers, based on the audience that we had in the room, were not happy with our decision to remove the community comments and feedback. And at the end of the day, our taxpayers are the ones who voted for us to represent them.
The issue could come up for debate 2 more times during hearings. Wong hopes the result will stay the same and keep comment time open to the public. Sanuda Ranawake, CBC News, Thompson.
Prime Minister Mark Carney unveiled his new cabinet in a swearing-in ceremony in Ottawa today. One of Manitoba's newest Liberal MPs, Rebecca Chartrand, is one of the new faces in cabinet. It's comprised of 28 ministers and 10 secretaries of state.
I will truly and faithfully and to the best of my skill and knowledge execute the powers and trusts reposed in me.
Dominic LeBlanc heads a new cabinet position responsible for Canada-US trade and intergovernmental affairs and One Canadian economy. Another familiar face, Anita Anand, is now the Minister of Foreign Affairs. Chrystia Freeland becomes Transport Minister, and Melanie Joly takes on the industry portfolio. Some ministers are newly elected MPs, like former journalist Evan Solomon and BC's Jill McKnight. Parliament will sit on May 27th. Riley's back in now. Riley, people looking ahead to that long weekend, and I know the temperature's coming down, the rain going to be coming. This is great news, but a really good reminder of those burn bans around the province.
Exactly. Even if your municipality doesn't have a burn ban in place, probably a good idea to just hold off for a few days till we can get some rain in place. I want to start with a look at visible satellite because this is satellite that is visible during the daylight hours, and you can actually see some of the smoke plumes coming out of some of these fires in eastern Manitoba and into northwestern Ontario. So what you're looking at here, this is the Ingall fire here that you can see with this one, and the Bird River fire. And some of these taller clouds are actually pyrocumulonimbus clouds, which are actually thick, big clouds that form out of some of this smoke and actually can cause some of their own stormy weather along with it. So that's what you're seeing on visible satellite is some of that smoke that's been wafting into northwestern Ontario, prompting some of those air quality advisories. The situation changes as we get into Wednesday. You'll see as we get into the overnight hours and into the morning, our winds shifting out of the north and the northeast first thing in the morning, still going at a pretty good clip. Could see some gusts up to 40 kilometers an hour tomorrow. But what that is going to do tomorrow in particular is push some of that smoke into the Red River Valley and a little bit further westward into the province. So this imagery is enhanced, but you can see here as we get into the morning hours on Wednesday, that smoke plume starts to push a little bit further south and west as we get into the day tomorrow. This will likely mean some hazy skies, particularly in southeastern Manitoba, but I think even in Winnipeg, we do have a good chance of seeing some hazy conditions as we get through the day on Wednesday. Behind all of this, some much needed rain starts to move in. This starts to push into the province as we get through the day on Wednesday, the leading edge of some of this into western parts of the province. As we get into the day on Thursday, though, that's when the main event starts to move in. And we still do have a 40,000 hectare fire burning near the Pas. This is good news for that because really Flin Flon south of the international border getting a pretty good soaking as we get through Thursday. And this does push north and east as we get into the day on Friday. So we are looking at some much needed precipitation to round out the week and get us into the long weekend here. This number for Melita, I think, is a little bit exaggerated, but generally, the western edge of the province, I think you've got a good shot at 20 up to even 50 millimeters of rain. Right now, I'm saying about 10 to 20 for the Red River Valley into the city of Winnipeg. So some rain coming, and with that comes a drop in temperature. So still hot the next couple of days, 29 for Wednesday in Winnipeg, 28 for Thursday. And then look at these temperatures as they fall with that rainfall, 6 degrees on Saturday, Brittany, and 10 on the way for Sunday.
All right. Thank you, Riley.
You're welcome.
Honda Canada is putting a hold on its multi-billion-dollar electric vehicle project in Canada. Ontario Premier Doug Ford is vowing to hold the automaker accountable for its decision. CBC's Magda Gebrselassie has more on the latest blow to the Canadian auto sector.
It's the largest auto investment in Canadian history.
Just a year ago, Canada was planning for a bright future, building Honda's electric vehicles from start to finish. Ontario Premier Doug Ford and then Prime Minister Justin Trudeau celebrated the car maker's $15 billion investment to build an electric vehicles supply chain. The plan included tacking on an EV assembly plant and a battery manufacturing plant to its Alliston, Ontario facilities. But now that's all on pause for about 2 years.
Disappointment, for sure, uncertainty, for sure, but also, making sure are you doing everything and anything you can.
In a statement, the company pits the decision on a recent slowdown of the EV market, a reality this expert says is due to a number of factors.
The two big reasons why people don't buy EVs. One is the price. The price is still expensive, the purchase price. And when you think about range anxiety, the charging infrastructure play a very big role. And that's where I feel that the government has not done enough.
This news comes amid uncertainty tied to U.S. President Donald Trump's tariff policies. Honda is already forecasting an almost 59% drop in its yearly profit.
And I think the reality is that the political world has certainly changed.
David Adams, who represents Global Automakers of Canada, says this is not the end for investments in EVs.
Globally, there's been probably $1.5 trillion spent on migrating the product from internal combustion engine to electrified technology. So companies aren't going to walk away from those investments.
For Honda, the province and the feds committed support for the EV project, totaling $5 billion. Today, Ford remained optimistic.
When I've talked to Honda, they've promised us they're going to continue on with their expansion.
The question now is, will this stalled EV project push back Canada's mandate for the sale of zero-emission vehicles by 2035? Magda Gebrselassie, CBC News, Toronto.
U.S. President Donald Trump has started his Middle East tour in Saudi Arabia. The two countries signed a defense agreement as part of a Saudi commitment to invest $600 billion in the U.S. CBC's Chris Brown has more.
Donald Trump really gave his Saudi hosts what they were looking for, a lot of validation for all of their efforts to transform their economy, transform their country, and transform their society.
That's pretty amazing, right?
Trump wandered through a lot of the scale models of all of the mega projects, the new skyscrapers and other stadiums that are being built here, and stopped to talk for a long time with all of the architects and the people behind it. Saudi Arabia is trying to really change their economy, pivot away from oil, and also change their society as well. And Trump was full of very lavish praise, especially for Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, who is the visionary behind a lot of this, praising him, calling Saudi Arabia's progress a miracle. However, the biggest actual round of applause came when Trump talked about another country, about Syria, when he said that the United States is going to lift all of its sanctions on Syria, and he hoped that that would allow the country to transition and grow.
Syria, which has seen so much misery and death, there is a new government that will hopefully succeed in stabilizing the country and keeping peace. I will be ordering the cessation of sanctions against Syria in order to give them a chance at greatness.
The reaction from a lot of Saudis, both to his comments on Syria, but also really just for everything he said about what's happening here, was generally very positive, and the U.S. president will hope to build on that as he travels throughout the region over the next couple of days. He'll be going to Qatar, and he'll also be going to the United Arab Emirates. One notable omission: he had very little to say about Israel, nothing to say about Israel, very little to say about the war in Gaza as well. It's one of the few points that the Saudi government and the United States disagree on. The Saudi government is pushing the Trump administration to put more pressure on Israel to stop its attacks into Gaza and to let humanitarian food aid in. Chris Brown, CBC News in Riyadh.
Sean Diddy Combs' former girlfriend, R&B singer Cassie Ventura, has taken the stand as a witness in his sex trafficking trial. Her testimony comes a day after prosecutors showed the jury a video of the music mogul beating her in a hotel in 2016. Chris Reyes has more from outside the New York courthouse and a warning. Details in this story are disturbing.
Cassie Ventura, a key witness for the prosecution, took the stand on day 2 of the Sean Combs racketeering and sex trafficking trial here in New York City. Ventura started dating Combs at 21 years old. Now 38 and visibly pregnant, she gave an explicit and emotional testimony about their tumultuous relationship that lasted more than a decade. Breaking down in tears and sometimes appearing to be exhausted when she detailed how Combs introduced her to a life of luxury, drugs, violence, and sex. She was young, naive, and in love, she said on the stand. Within a year of dating, she testified Combs began to control and abuse her. An example of that abuse was captured on security footage that was leaked to media last year, showing Combs brutally beating Ventura in the hallway of a hotel in 2016. That video has already been shown to the jury. Much of Ventura's testimony focused on so-called freak-offs, elaborate sex performances allegedly orchestrated by Combs. Ventura said Combs directed her to participate in her first freak-off when she was just 22 years old, giving her drugs, telling her what to wear and what sex acts to perform with other male escorts. There were dozens of questions about the amount of baby oil used. Ventura said the freak-offs happened almost weekly for days at a time and went on for years, leaving her feeling humiliated and disgusted. She told the jury she didn't want to do any of it, but feared Combs' anger and violence if she refused. Her testimony described a man who had guns in most homes he owned and a team of assistants at his beck and call. When asked why she participated, Ventura simply said, "I just didn't want anything bad to happen. I just really wanted his approval." Ventura's testimony will continue with cross-examination. Chris Reyes, CBC News, New York.
The complainant in the sexual assault trial of 5 former World Junior hockey players was back in court. EM faced more cross-examination from the last of the 5 legal defense teams. All 5 accused have all pleaded not guilty. Ali Shiasen has more about what the jury saw and heard. And again, a warning, viewers may find some details of this case disturbing.
Today, the defense attorney for Cal Foot, Juliana Greenspan, grilled EM about why she refers to the accused as men and not boys when testifying about the alleged assault. Quote, "You have specifically refused to use the word boy at this trial. Isn't that right? It was a conscious decision by you to say man or men," Greenspan asks. EM replies, "It's not a conscious decision. They were 18 or 19. They were that age." EM testified that she referred to them as boys back in 2018 because that's how she talked when she was 20 years old. She says she's matured and calls adults men and women. Greenspan takes the court back to Jack's bar with more video from inside before EM left with Michael McLeod to his hotel. She brings up a moment where EM is talking to the bouncer, who was a friend of hers. Greenspan says she looks animated and excited and, quote, "Not too drunk out of your mind, but excited to tell your friend about who she had met." At one point, Greenspan pulls out a strappy high-heel shoe. It's a replica of the shoes EM wore the night of the alleged assault, suggesting that they're not easy to put on, not easy to run in or skip up the steps of the hotel, as she's seen doing in hotel security footage. EM has testified that she's just good at walking in heels. Cross-examination is over for EM, but she'll remain on the stand for at least tomorrow when the Crown Attorney begins her re-examination. Ali Shiasen, CBC News, London, Ontario.
Hospitals often rely on staffing agencies to fill in employee shortages. But now one Ontario hospital is looking to slow down its use of temp services. Alison Northcott brings us more on why.
So I'm just going to check your blood pressure, okay?
Staff at this Ontario hospital have been working to reduce reliance on private agencies that provide temporary hires like nurses to help fill shifts. Agency use here soared when the COVID-19 pandemic hit as demand increased and nurses left the profession.
The challenge in working with agency nursing is primarily that there's a much higher cost.
A new report shows Ontario hospitals paid for-profit agencies $9.2 billion over 10 years. Per capita spending on agencies nearly doubled between 2013 and 2023, while for employed staff it increased by only 6%.
This is a very expensive form of staffing hospitals, but it's coming really at the expense of being able to invest and make those investments in the long-term workforce.
This recently graduated registered nurse says her staff job at the hospital is more appealing than agency work.
Working in the agency, you do have a flexibility and probably you will get more pay, but in terms of support and the teamwork, I think personally that's something very important for me.
The Canadian Federation of Nurses Unions has called the use of agencies Band-Aids on gaping wounds.
Quebec recently passed a law limiting the use of private staffing agencies in some parts of the province, with a plan to phase them out more widely by the end of next year.
Nursing agencies.
But critics say that doesn't solve underlying problems like working conditions.
We have to deal with the root issue, the root cause of nurses leaving, rather than just putting stop signs everywhere.
Everyone is well staffed.
A spokesperson for Ontario's health minister said agency staff hours represent less than 2% of the total hours worked in hospitals. The report's author calls on Ontario to boost hospital funding and follow Quebec's lead to phase out agencies over the next 3 years. Alison Northcott, CBC News, Montreal.
Manitoba drivers are being reminded to slow down and move over. The province marks today as a day aimed at raising awareness about a life-saving law designed to protect emergency responders and roadside workers. CAA research shows 8 in 10 drivers have heard about the law, but only roughly half know its definition or what they need to do. Data also shows that more than 1/3 of CAA's members are not aware of the specific penalties. RCMP say enforcing this can also be challenging.
Obviously, it's a little difficult to enforce when officers are out by themselves. They might be the ones standing up at the car and a vehicle goes by. So it's very under-enforced, I would say, just because of the nature of difficulty enforcing it. But we are going to be doing specific projects focusing on this over the summer in conjunction with today. So there will be an increased enforcement.
Now, under the law, if there's an emergency vehicle or tow operator ahead, drivers must reduce speed and move to an open lane. It comes with a minimum $298 ticket if fined. More than 100 people marched in downtown Winnipeg today, honoring murdered and missing Indigenous men and boys. They drummed, held signs, and brought photos of their loved ones as they walked towards Manitoba's legislature. In 2020, there were 201 Indigenous victims of homicide reported by police across the country. More than 80% were men. Families of victims say it's a problem not spoken about enough. Corinne Chief's brother was killed in 2021.
And I just want to do this in his, just to honor him, honor his life, because his life mattered, and it still does, and I just want to keep, that's the least I can do, is just to be a voice for him.
Chief is calling for a national day of awareness to honor missing and murdered Indigenous men and boys. Canada Post workers could soon be back on the picket line as early as next week. With the possibility of a strike on the horizon, the city of Winnipeg is preparing for the potential work stoppage. The city says several departments and services will be impacted if that strike moves forward. That includes Animal Services, Human Resources, and the Winnipeg Parking Authority. To deal with disruptions, the city is suggesting people pay their bills and taxes online or in person to avoid any issues. A strike could happen as early as next Thursday. Seasonal allergies are hitting Canadians harder than ever, with record pollen counts being detected across North America. Johanna Wagstaff explains how and what we can do about it.
If you have seasonal allergies, you know pollen is enemy number one. Right now, pollen counts across North America are coming in way higher than normal. From Vancouver to Atlanta, the people out there counting pollen grains on trees and grasses, they're saying they've never seen levels like this. For millions of sufferers, this means itchy eyes, nonstop sneezing, but for others, it can lead to serious health issues, especially those with asthma.
We've seen an increased number of trips to the ER of medication dispensed. We have numbers in previous years showing that increased episodes of air pollution, and in other countries, increased counts of pollen, like Australia when they have thunderstorms, really trigger healthcare emergencies.
And get this, people who've never had allergies before, some of them are suddenly developing symptoms for the first time. That's me. So what's going on here? It turns out it's not just the heat. The other big player, carbon dioxide. Plants need CO2 to photosynthesize, so they thrive when there's more, producing more pollen and even stronger allergens. And the big reason for more heat and more CO2, you guessed it, climate change.
We have more air pollution that is also irritating and increasing the activities in our respiratory system and our immune system. So these two, air pollution and pollen grains, interact and create havoc.
Scientists around the world have tested what happens to pollen producers when they're offered up more CO2. Time and time again, the results show significant increases in pollen production. Then there's this scary phenomenon we should talk about, thunderstorm asthma. Yep, that's a thing. During storms, pollen grains get whipped into teeny tiny particles, making it easier for them to get deep into your lungs. It's rare but dangerous and happening more often with extreme weather on the rise. So what can we actually do? Big picture, this is yet another reason to slash greenhouse gas emissions right away. We can also be smarter about how we green our cities up, choosing native, low allergen species. And some countries like Finland are starting to model and forecast in a more detailed and valuable way, like the weather. Other countries will likely follow suit. On a personal level, this might be a good year to take your allergies seriously.
I would suggest people to be on the lookout for any ways of minimizing our exposure to pollen, be it wearing face masks, using air purifiers, anything like that. I think we should keep an eye on our symptoms. We all know our bodies.
Feels a little like everything's coming early this year. Early allergy season, we've seen the early wildfire season, early summer with the weather that we're getting, at least for the last few days. It feels like wildfires are popping up every day, but we also can't forget about some that have been really raging for a few days now.
Exactly. I'm going to start in northern Manitoba. I've got a map of some of the current wildfires burning in the province right now. The one near the Paw in particular, this one as of this afternoon, up to about 40,000 hectares. You might recall the first night I told you about this one, it was at about 6,000 hectares. So that is quite the jump. This one's still, according to the province, listed as out of control and has started a couple of other fires closer to Clearwater Lake. So that one is burning still in northern Manitoba. The air quality alerts in that part of the province have ended, but doesn't mean that you won't still experience some local smoke. And this is the Bird River fire here that we were talking about earlier as well. This one now up to 5,000 hectares. The cause for that one listed as natural, which means most likely something like lightning caused that one. And you can see kind of the dotted specks on this map. This is from the province's wildfire forecasting and mapping division that has been plotting out some of these spaces here on where we've seen some of those more notable grass fires as we've gotten throughout the last week or so here with these warm temperatures. All right, your dog walking forecast, maybe a couple of sprinkles first thing in the morning. I don't think that Lucy will mind, though. Thank you, Leah and George, for sending this picture in. You can always send yours. I could use more to talk back at cbc.ca, please, because we do love the dog walking forecast. Maybe a bit breezy into the afternoon again tomorrow. North winds, which means maybe we see a little bit of a hazy sky again as we get through the day. On Wednesday, 21 degrees by the time we get into the evening as we start to see that next weather system move through. 32 degrees in Winnipeg. We reached my forecast high of 36 this afternoon, still at 27 in Brandon and Melita, Dauphin at 25, and you can see where the jet stream cuts through with some below zero temperatures in far northern Manitoba. Temperatures to the west a bit more seasonal for overnight temperatures for this time of the year, with some rain moving into Brandon at 8 degrees. Still 12 to 15 really across the Red River Valley tonight, 8 in Peguis under a mainly cloudy sky, and looking at single digits into northern Manitoba, -2 overnight in Thompson. A mainly cloudy sky tomorrow, some peaks of sunshine through the afternoon, 14 in the Paw and Flin Flon, Thompson at 11 by the afternoon, Gillam at 8 degrees. In the south, a little bit of rain starts to push through as we get first thing in the morning for the western part of the province. This is a steadier rain through the afternoon, 11 degrees by the afternoon in Brandon, and still looking at 28s and 29s by the afternoon for us here in Winnipeg.
Well, all you have to do is really look at those temperatures to
Yeah.
know it has certainly felt more like summer these last few days. Our first heat warning of the year. It's really hit southern Manitoba, even Saskatchewan, with a real unusual intensity and length.
Exactly. Winnipeg is already breaking records. So we likely hit another one today with multiple days above 30 degrees. While we will cool down by the weekend, the coming months could see above normal temperatures. And while these conditions have made it difficult for fire crews, it doesn't necessarily spell cause for concern for farmers just yet. Rosanna Hempel has that story.
Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 4 days in a row with temperatures that are above 30 degrees.
Environment Canada climatologist David Phillips says Canada's first heat warning of 2025 has hit southern Manitoba and Saskatchewan with unusual intensity and length.
Well, this is quite exceptional. I mean, temperatures in Winnipeg should be a high of about 19, not 35 degrees. I mean, come on, that's like almost 20 degrees warmer than it should be for this time of the year.
The city normally has less than 1 day of above 30-degree weather in May. June has 2 on average, July has just over 4, and August has nearly 5. Phillips says the coming months are calling for above normal temperatures, which could spell trouble for firefighters. Manitoba's fairly significant early wildfire season, though, is not a good indicator of drought conditions or soil moisture, according to agroclimate specialist Trevor Hadwin.
I'm not too concerned right now. We need to be patient for those spring rains.
He says last fall's rains left farmers in good shape, and now they're making good time on seeding.
We just need a couple rainstorms this spring, and those that will help out the crop tremendously.
As for mosquitoes, the heat wave doesn't mean we won't see any buzzing around the spring and summer. The city says the spring species had enough snowmelt for breeding, and the summer species is counting on the next rainfall, which is expected on Thursday. Rosanna Hempel, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Mother Nature and the arrival of spring are putting on a show on Canada's East Coast. Take a look now at these wonders of nature. Iceberg season got an early start off the coast of Newfoundland with the first one in March. Now dozens can be seen along the province's Iceberg Alley. One tour guide says there's a certain mystique to these massive glaciers.
It's just incredible the number of people now that are supplementing their income, having something to put their mind on, making life more interesting and exciting, meeting people from all over the world. You know, it's not just the money but it's just the quality of life.
Now, many of these glacial giants are 10,000 years old. Roughly 90% of them come from the glaciers of Western Greenland. The rest come from glaciers in Canada's Arctic.
Well, definitely not great weather for ice in southern Manitoba. We're looking at another day above seasonal. Mix of sun and clouds tomorrow. Maybe a bit hazy in the afternoon, particularly into the southeastern part of the province because of that north wind, 20 gusting to 40. Hey, our sunset now at 9:06 in the evening. So getting longer and longer days as we get into the middle of May here. 28 degrees on Thursday. Good chance we'll see some showers rolling through in the afternoon. Better chance of some periods of rain as we get through Friday at 10 degrees. That is a falling temperature through the day on Friday. 6 for Saturday, and then we rebound by the time we get to the beginning of next week. 12 for Monday, and still below seasonal at 16 for Tuesday. Well, this hockey fan is caught in the middle.
Now, for most of his life, Nat Yeager has been a dedicated fan of the Winnipeg Jets. That is, until he moved to Dallas a few years ago. That's when he decided to adopt the Stars as his new home team. But of course, with the two teams battling out in round 2 of the playoffs, it's created a bit of a dilemma for him.
A friend made a joke, and this is a little bit of a riff on it, but when the Jets play, I'm a Jets fan. When the Stars play, I'm a Stars fan. And when the Jets and Stars play each other, I'm a Leafs fan.
Ouch!
But
don't do that.
Yeah, but it's a fun excuse to watch hockey.
He says he'll continue to cheer for both teams. He'd like to see a cup come back to Canada, in particular here to Winnipeg.
I was going to say, I don't know if we can say cheer for the Leafs.
Yeah.
No, it's got to be the Jets, even when they're playing the Stars for him.
Exactly. And you know what? There's another whiteout party to look forward to.
Exactly.
5.
Have a wonderful night. We will see you back here tomorrow. Stay safe.
See ya.
At least one.
Yeah, exactly.